Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. All right, today I'm really excited about today's guest. I usually am talking to people who have an established business and they're telling their story. Today we're getting a sneak peek into really a founder story in a product that's very interesting, but also is getting ready to launch. So we're kind of maybe hearing a little bit more of a launch story, which is kind of cool. So I'm joined today by Michael Sandefur, who is a co-founder of SafeEvac. And Michael, why don't you just first tell us a little about yourself, and then we'll jump into the story of SafeEvac.
Okay, well, John, thank you. I really enjoyed being here and appreciate it. So my background has nothing to do with what I'm doing now in terms of entrepreneurism. My original backgrounds were in natural resources, environmental protection, and then alternative energy technologies. I worked in each one of those fields for a number of years, and was the director of environmental affairs for a large gas and electric company here in the U.S. And after a number of years there, I kind of split out from that and started doing consulting work, doing wetland and stream delineations and restorations, and permitting, and had a great run there. In 10 years, from a startup company, we were doing more wetland and stream delineations than any company in the U.S. Decided at that point I was ready to retire, but had a long talk with God, and God said, I said, I think I've got a talent I haven't used, and I don't want to leave this earth not having used that talent. And got a message, and so I started working on different inventions. I had a lot of different ideas I had up there, and so from retirement 10 years ago to now, I've got 10 patents, 10 different patents, and one of these was SafeEvac, and we're bringing that one to market.
Yeah, very cool. So you've already teed it up a little bit that you came out of this completely different market, kind of retired, semi-retired, having some fun, doing some inventions, and then tell that story about how someone came to you and said, "I think there's a problem here for you to solve." Tell us about that.
So this happened right after the Parkland shooting and then the Marshall County shooting in Kentucky. I was on a road trip with my associate and co-founder Mike Day, and he had children. Of course, so the shootings, were more impactful to him right at that moment. And one of the things he said, "Is there any way that we can mitigate these shootings?" And so at that point, I said, "Well, I don't know. I'll start noodling on it." And with that, started looking at basically a lot of the old newscasts, of incidents of shootings, and one of the things that popped out virtually in every one of these incidents is either a written story or a newscast or interviews was the word chaos. It's total chaos. People didn't know where to go, what to do. We weren't reunited for in some cases 12 hours with parents, and so we thought about, okay, we can't really you can't really stop somebody from doing evil, but we can react to it perhaps a lot in a much better way, and if we can eliminate the chaos, that makes that situation better. And by eliminating chaos, it also would allow for early, first responders to be able to address the situation in a much more expedient way, and potentially save lives in that process.
Yeah, excellent. So, school shootings is not a pleasant topic to talk about. But it is one of those things we all agree they're terrible. We might disagree on best solutions, and there's gun control, and there's metal detectors, and you know guards in schools, police in schools. All those are different solutions, right? People come up with, and I actually have a friend that has kind of been on the preventive side, doing consulting in schools, and
Mm-hmm.
better mitigate the risk up front, like how to recognize
Yeah.
potential beforehand. And I think there's room for every solution, but your solution is unique. So um, tell us more about what you've come up with.
Well, so we were trying to so the bet to eliminate chaos, and this is true for pretty much any scenario. That's why police officers train, military train, so that they're prepared for a situation. Unfortunately, it's pretty hard to really train for like say an active shooter in a school, because most likely it's not going to happen, and when it does, it's just hard to be trained for it, and the circumstances are situational. Uh, so we were looking on how to communicate, and and I was pushing a couple other technologies along at the same time. But then after about a year, I just one day I called my associate up and I said, "Hey, we're going down to the hardware store." Uh, and he said, "What for?" And I said, "Just come with me. I think I want to look at an exit sign." So we went down. I pulled out a box off the shelf, opened it up, opened up the inside. I'm looking in it. It's just it's a big empty box with some lights in it. It hasn't really changed in 100 years. It's went from incandescent lights to LED lights, and maybe some of them have a battery. And I looked at that sign. And I said, we can do everything we need with this sign right here. We have uh, and so we started with the basic exit sign, regulatory exit sign, and in that we put a speaker, microphone, camera, and a sensor. And the sensor can detect gunshot. We can either measure the decibel level or the AI profile. We can also pick up hot words like gun, knife, fight, bomb, medical emergency, tornado, any number of hot words. It can also do situational awareness, and this is kind of pretty exciting part for me, is that it can be listening to a crowd of people, and they can determine AI can determine if it's an ordinary meeting, or if it's a fun meeting, or if there's having panic or terror going on during that. Then it can also the sign sensor can also pick up code words. It can do voice recognition of a teacher, or a administrator in a building, or airport. Even though sidebar, schools are a passion, but they literally represent only 2% of our market. But that's the passion we're pushing first. Uh, and so it can do voice recognition. The teacher can give code words into it. Then it can also be activated through a phone app, or a handheld fob or lanyard. And so those are the different ways in which the AI picks up the presence of a threat. And I like to equate it to like a, a, a jigsaw puzzle. You throw it on a table with no instructions. Each one of those pieces, are pretty much meaningless. But what we found is, by AI can take all these different inputs and weave them together and come up with really a pretty accurate picture of what's going on right there at that moment. And so, along with the exit sign, we have a family of signs. We have a smaller sign we call a supplemental, which goes in individual rooms where you don't necessarily need to exit. Uh, then we also have a hallway intersection sign. Uh, so, as an example, as you're leaving a room, you get a verbal and a visual command to exit. Uh, and your next panic point is gonna be a hallway intersection. So we've created in the signs. We also have a family of strobe lights. So in the threat area, all the strobes turn red in a clockwise pattern, triangular pattern. For evacuation, it's double flashing green at the bottom. And then on the back side of any exit signs, we have yellow strobes that go counterclockwise. And that's how first responders can follow the yellow directly to the threat. So it'll start with an outdoor sign. They'll see the yellow and they can follow the yellow strobes directly to the threat. And then we have a blue color for meaning shelter in place. It could be for a storm, a tornado, or an outside threat, or we simply redirecting somebody to a safer area for whatever reason. So that digital blueprint I give you, well, so what happens next? Let's say you're in a part of a building, a threat's been identified, all the signs in that area turn red. They give you a verbal and a visual warning that you're in danger. And then our software throughout the rest of the building directs people to the closest, safest exit. And so that visual floor plan I just described, it comes to us. We're able to see it at our ops center, so we know exactly where the threat is occurring, what sign got activated, and that information is also sent immediately to 911, the school or whatever building we're in, an airport or a government building. They get to see in real time where everybody's evacuating, where the threat is. And then at the same time, all the cameras kick on, and we have a team at our ops center that are studying it, helping people navigate to evacuate. We can talk individually through each sign and communicate with people. And then we're also feeding information directly to law enforcement, on the number of perpetrators, confirming the type of weapons. If there's injured, where they're moving, we can manually then update the evacuation or danger area. And so all this information is relayed to virtually everybody that's involved in this, from the occupants all the way up to the responding police and medical personnel, starting within the first 15 seconds of an event.
Yeah. So this is fascinating for me. I'm a old tech guy. I've worked actually in the AV world and some in the security sector. So familiar with a lot of the terminology used, situational awareness and all that, which is, so this kind of brings back some memories, but also, what I like, the way I kind of envision this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like you almost wish you could have an individual guide guiding each student or each person in a mall or wherever, like an individual, whispering in their ear, going, turn left, go right, sit down, hide under a desk, almost like you'd like to be able to have, that level of correspondence. Of course, that's impossible, but it's almost like you're kind of simulating that. You're telling this classroom, stay in place. You're telling this classroom over here, exit the building to the left. It's really fascinating to imagine that. Did I kind of capture the essence of it?
Yeah, you did absolutely, John. We have one of our first installations is at a military base in Indiana, and that's where we've been doing our training and breaking it and fixing it and trying to find out its limitations. But we had a group of law enforcement that came there, and it was a school as well. But they were in the part that seemed to excite them the most was how fast the first responders could follow that yellow directly to the threat.
Yeah.
Because usually in a situation like that, they're coming there with no information. They know nothing. People are running around, like I say, the chaos. They don't know who the threat is. They don't know what kind of weapons they're facing. They don't know if they've left the building or they're moving toward them. And so they have to do all that assessment right then. And we found a lot of times that the information you get from people in that situation, it's not good information. It's not good intel anyway.
Right. You were in a
But
panic.
oh yeah. but the speed that the police, and I told them when I said we're going in, I said, okay, guys, we're going to move fast because we got good intel. And so we moved into the building, and from the start of the building until we were at the threat area was maybe 15 seconds, maybe not that long. And
Wow.
and and so they were the police they were in, the mental state of, where's the threat. And they got to the last yellow sign, which was telling them to go to the left. And you went around the corner and there was the red. And so we can communicate with them that the red is right around the corner, so they know that when they step around that corner, they're in the business section. And the other thing they really loved to hear about was the fact that if the threat is moved away, then we manually would have made that next sign yellow so they could keep progressing yellow. But if the threat is moving toward them, then the sign in front of them could turn red, so they know that the threat is imminent. And even though they liked the evacuation, it was mostly school representatives and police, and that's the part that really excited them. I'm
Yeah.
sure if we had kids there, they would think, hey, we like the evacuation better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. So now I love the solution. I think anything, well, let me first say, I hope your solution is widespread, but never used.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because if it's used, that means something bad is happening. But I love the preventative aspect of this. I love the fact that this could help mitigate risk, all sorts of things. I want to get into the mind of an inventor, though. Uh, I'm not an inventor. I'm an idea guy, but I've never been good at going, okay, I've got this idea. Now I want to invent something. And I learned several years ago that those are two different skills. Ideas are one thing, actually putting it into something tangible is a different skill. So tell me about that process. How do where do the ideas come from, and how does your mind work that takes it into creating a solution?
Well, one of the things throughout my different careers, I realize, I've always seemed to end up a little bit in the process management scenarios of how can I make this more efficient. And I think part of that may just be laziness. If I can make it easier, it's easier for me too. But yeah, I've just always been a gadget guy. I mean, I was. Yeah, you seen a kid that sticks a fork in a electric socket? That was me. I
Kids don't do that. If there's anybody listening,
yeah, yeah,
that's a bad idea.
yeah. It's a bad idea. I can personally attest to that. I'd disassemble a clock just to see how it worked. I was just, I guess, just a curious individual. And so I'd see something that was just an idea, and I just write it down on a piece of paper. And like I say, I had other careers and other things I had, responsibilities I had to take care of, so I couldn't always play with those. And then some months later, I'd come back and read my list, and I'd look at that and I'd say, what were you thinking? And I'd scratch it out. It was a horrible idea, but uh, you know, uh, uh, so one of the things I kind of thought on early was there's different ways to you know to make a living. And one is you do what other people are doing, whether it's sales or and you can do that. But another way was, and it's it's where you so it's where you when you think about the inventing something, that's always if you can, that you trap a market, you've got something new. So that's always a great way to do it. But generally way society does, we copy something else. We have somebody has a pizza shop, I'm going to build one over here, and then we fight for that market. But then the other way, which I always thought was a little easier, was to take something that's already existing and either make it applicable to something else or to add components to it to make it something else. And that's essentially what we did with the exit sign. I mean, it hasn't changed for 100 years. In most places, if you took them out, they wouldn't even be missed until
Right.
the fire marshal got there. But by adding components, we've created something new to that. And one of the examples was, I always loved was when the radio first came out. It was struggling. I mean, it was a nice little hobby, and people were communicating back and forth. And then one day, somebody was, and then it started using it a little bit for entertainment. And then one day, some gentleman, he had a bunch of extra eggs, and he said, "Hey, I've got too many eggs," and he said, "Come by my house and pick them up. I'll give you a good discount on them." And it's like for years, the radio had just, it'd been something else. But suddenly, the day he sold eggs, the whole industry changed, because they said, "Oh wow, we can sell everything on here."
Yeah, I haven't heard that story. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, so you get an idea, you see this idea of taking the exit sign and adding stuff to it to make something work, and you start proving it out. Um, where does that turn into a business? I know you've got like 10 employees or something like that now. At what point does it go from an idea to a business, and what's that transition like?
So, so sometimes there's that aha moment, and with this product, that really was an aha moment, because you realize that you could see the need, you could see the simplicity of it, and to the end user. Now, underneath the covers, it's incredibly complicated and complex with the AI and building your own gunshot profiles for indoor and all that. But it so once we had the concept down to where we could communicate it, then there's a validation phase. Uh, we talk to different people, and sometimes, and we also we're also refining our concept until then. And at some point, when you have enough validation, then it turns into implementation. How do you take that idea, from concept to a physical form? And so uh, I had been attending some entrepreneurial groups here in the Evansville, Indiana area, and I'm meeting key folks that I think could be helpful, and making a list. And but actually, this product was such an easy sell.
Yeah.
And so right away, one of the attorneys who had interested that I have been working with, he left his firm after 20 years, and came to us, one of the largest attorney firms in the U.S. And he said, "I want to come work for you. I want to make this work."
Oh,
We
wow.
found another gentleman. He had been in construction his whole life, and he had taken a division of Johnson Controls, where they do energy retrofits,
Yeah.
heating retrofits, all that lighting. And he had built it to a $2 billion a year a branch of Johnson Controls, uh, and uh, and he was probably looking to slow down a little bit and retire, but he got excited about this, so we brought him on as a CEO. Uh, uh, Talked to a software guy. He just fell in love with it. He said, "This is amazing. I want to be part of something that could be this big." And so we've been blessed. Former Lieutenant Governor Janine Hampton came on board. She had background in manufacturing and military and software, and she said, this is something I want to be part of. So the team just started all coming together, and so we've got, like I say, we got a great team of about 10 or 12 now, and we got probably another 30 consultants that have, are working with us to bring this to market. So that part was easy. Now, prototyping is difficult.
Yeah.
Uh, it's long, and so I can't. I've got a graveyard of 3D printed parts, and and I probably, just I probably spent $30,000 just on prototypes, just to
Yeah.
it works.
Which is another common thing we hear. You gotta fail. I like the saying fail forward.
Yeah.
Make a mistake, but learn from it, move on. And you have to do that pretty quickly. I mean, 30 failures, if you're not making that decision and moving on pretty quickly, that could tie up years of work, right?
Yeah, it is. One of the things we did early on is we bought uh, a pretty nice 3D printer, because we simply, although you could contract that out, but then you have to take your idea and convey it to another person, and then they have to understand it, and then they 3D print it, and you have to get on the waiting list, and then the cost is going to be fairly expensive. So we went ahead and got a 3D printer, nice 3D printer, and it's in our basement running all the time. And so that gave me access to be able to move fairly quickly on this. But when I grew up, I think I was probably in my 40s before I heard the word entrepreneur.
Yeah,
There just wasn't a this network of groups that there are now, or there weren't, at least in that I was aware of, there weren't entrepreneurial classes in college that taught you how to step through this. There wasn't the maker shops where you got a 3D printer, you've got some kind of printers and measuring tools and all the tools that a young inventor or a new inventor needs to be able to do this. So,
yeah. So
but there,
yeah, so this is fascinating. I know we could talk for hours. I have enough knowledge of this to just want to geek out with you, but at the same time, I want to be respectful for your time. We're sitting here in March. This probably isn't going to go live until sometime in April. Uh, Tell us about what's next. I know you're still kind of going through some testing at that military base, but I know you've got some exciting news coming just around the corner. So share
yeah,
that.
yeah. So in this process, we've raised about $8 million to get to where we're at, uh, and uh, and with that, now we're able to order the molds. I've been ordering molds. I think we talked a week ago, and I was ordering molds then. And I ordered some molds yesterday as well. So that until you have the molds built, you can't. It's just it's you can't. There's definitely no revenue coming in. So we've ordered probably close to 20 different molds for injection molding. Uh, the circuit boards, we've got the circuitry worked out. So uh, when we get the cabinets, we're ready to install and start putting things together. From a marketing standpoint, well, and we're still looking. Like I say, I think we're looking to raise about $2 more million. And I will say, raising money is, even for this, for me, was not easy. Um, uh, and it was for some people, it was such a big concept that they had a hard time getting their arms around it.
Sure.
uh, and but as obviously, the closer you get to your target, the easier it is to raise money. uh, so we had the opportunity. Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks on Shark Tank, he found out about us, and through some networking, and he said, "I want to see what you're doing." And so we presented to him. We didn't know what to expect, and I asked him. I said, "Would you like to see our financials?" And he started laughing. He said, "Your financials are worthless." He said, "I'll tell you why." He says, "Because you can't predict this market." He said, "This is the this you have." He said, "I have never seen a larger total addressable market in my life." And
Wow.
so So anyway, there's 132,000 schools, 900,000 government buildings, 10 million other buildings. So one of the things you're talking about that's coming up, our signs, we can put chemical sensors on it so they can be working in factory environments, pharmaceutical areas. So we can put like 18 different sensors so that that's immediate, so the management and occupants immediately know when something's going sideways. So we're actively working on that. We've traveled all over the country. I put 60,000 miles driving our little model around that shows the school and how all the lights work. But we've been to the Academy Awards. We've been to New York. We've been to the Honda corporations. It's just been an incredible journey, and we picked up some really, really strong proponents along the way. Kimberly Fletcher, Moms for America. That's a conservative moms group. They have over 500,000 members. She saw it and she says, "We've been praying for a solution." She said, "This is it." So they did a 1-hour video. They have a program called the Mom's View, and like I say, it goes out to over 500,000 moms. So we did an hour-long episode, and it's going out, I think, sometime here in early April. So we're getting with a call to action to moms to let your schools know about this.
Yeah, yeah. So you're hoping to start taking this to the public this summer? Is that?
Yeah. We've got our first installation. We'll be installing signs in June. So we've got several customers lined up, and we're ready to start accepting other customers.
Wow.
And so we're, like I say, I think our challenge is going to be, controlled growth, and but we've got great regulatory support, great political support too. So often, everything seems to be politically ignited for whatever reason. We have had wonderful bipartisan support from state parties, federal parties. Everybody has, they just all are pulling together, and we're just so appreciative that that's occurring.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm rooting for you. Again, I hope your product's never used, but I hope it becomes a great deterrent. And I hope you'll, just completely transform this topic. I think it's got, and I like it because what you just talked about, I don't care if you're on the left or the right. I think everybody agrees that in the moment, the protection of those kids and getting to the solution as quick as possible is paramount. So however you get there and however you handle afterward, that's where all the politics comes in. But in the moment, I don't think there's any left or right when it comes to this. So that's part of the brilliance too of what you've done. So man, I'm rooting for you. I don't have the biggest voice in the podcast world, of course, but I'm hoping that a few people out there who might be able to help you, might be able to get you in front of some prospects, or might be able to help you close that last 2 million gap.
Yeah.
Maybe there's somebody out there that hears of this and reaches out to you. So tell us things like how to get in touch with you if someone is interested in any of those things. Website, email.
Yeah, our website's the best way. There's a contact page on there. You can fill out a contact form, and we'll get right back to you. And so that's certainly the easiest way. SafeEvac, the word safe and then the word evac, so it's got 2 E's in the middle, and .com. And so that, like I say, we know with the Moms for America, when it goes out to a 500,000 plus moms, and that we're making our website, trying to make it tsunami proof, because it's gonna. So before I would like to share one of the stories very quickly. So we've made probably 5 or 6 trips to Uvalde. We're making one in 2 weeks. We've pledged to work with the Uvalde and the losses they've had, and so we were, and it's a small community, just everybody, it's a small, loving community, and about 15,000. And we were there eating, one of our favorite restaurants is Ophelia's. And we got to know the waitresses, and one of the waitress came up to me. Her name is Edith, and she said, "We understand you may have a technology for our schools." And we said, "Yes, we do." And she said, "We also understand you have a little model that you can show us that shows how's it work." And we go, "Yeah, we do." And she said, "Well, if we stayed open late, would you come in and show it to the waitresses and the staff here?" And we said, "Well, yeah, we'd be happy to." So anyway, we're presenting, and under those circumstances, we were being very respectful, not to say what our system would have done in that situation. We
Sure.
just wanted to outline the capabilities. But probably the most biggest affirmation that I've received is when uh, one of the waitresses put her hand on the model and said, if we'd had this technology in our school, our babies would be alive today. So,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm in this. I'm 68 years old, going strong. Really don't need the money. So this is when I mentioned earlier that I had a long talk with God and said I need to use those talents. So here I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Michael, you're an inspiration. And like I said, this isn't a typical type of interview I do. I'm usually talking to a business owner who's talking about tactics of leading a team and this and the growth or whatever. But I felt like I had to tell your story when I heard it, because I'm like, wow, if I can help spread the word,
Mhm.
because I have a feeling it's gonna, when those 500,000 moms get that email, if there's any school administrators listening to this, be prepared. Your phone's going to start ringing. Your emails are going to start chiming. Actually, I shared it with a friend of mine, a client who is on the school board, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, that's going to be interesting." She immediately went to questions about legalism, of recording and protection. And I
Yeah,
said, I said, they're a smart group. They've got an attorney on their team. I'm pretty sure they've covered all those bases,
yeah,
but I think everybody immediately goes, wow, this is interesting. So, I
yeah,
wish you nothing but success in the hope of, prevention, and, trying to keep these types of events from happening. So, thank you again for your time.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, John. And I'm sure we'll be in touch again. I'll make it down to Louisville, and we'll have lunch together.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.